Next on Heisman Talk, all you need to know about off-season recruiting in the Big Ten. And here's your host, the Nate Dog. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Heisman Talk. So far, we've discussed two conferences for their 2020 recruiting classes. We have the SEC and the ACC. So today we're going to continue that trend. Today we're going to talk about the Big 10 and their 2020 recruiting classes. More specifically, the BIG10 East, which includes some pretty big names like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Maryland, and Michigan State. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So first off, we're going to talk about Ohio State. Ohio State comes off of a very impressive year, making it to the college football playoff again. I believe for the first time since they won in 2014 under Ryan Day, who took over a few years ago for Urban Meyer. And yeah, I mean, he hasn't stopped the progress for Ohio State. 13-1 last year, like I said, and they continue to be impressive in the offseason in recruiting. Some notable freshmen include Julian Fleming, who's a wide receiver, number one wide receiver in the nation, by the way, 6'2", 199. This is a huge pickup for Ohio State. There was a few big teams like Georgia and Alabama in the mix that were trying to get him, but ultimately he decides to stay with Ohio State. This kid has impressive speed after the catch, and you know, one thing that I noticed about him on tape that you'll see is that he's a great downfield blocker. You know, a lot of wide receivers, they can go up and get the ball, they can catch the ball, they can be great receivers, but can they make great blocking? I've always thought that the best wide receivers that can block are usually the ones that make it to the NFL and make a lasting, long career in the NFL. I believe that's something that this kid can do. Obviously on the thinner side at 199, but don't get me wrong, by the time he's in the weight room at Ohio State, should be able to get up to around 210 by the end of the season, no doubt. And then you look at offensive lineman, another great pickup for Ohio State, Paris Johnson Jr., big kid, 6'7", 290. First thing I noticed about this kid is he's super physical. He finishes blocks with pancakes. I actually put in my notes that I call him the pancake master. This kid plays through the whistle, and he just really knows how to finish the block. Again, coming in at 6'7", that's really impressive. Big kid. Be looking for big things from this kid. Number one offensive tackle in the nation, by the way. Ohio State finishes number 5 nationally in recruiting behind some teams such as Georgia, Alabama, Clemson. And they finished number 1 in the Big 10, which is huge. And then look no further than Michigan. Michigan comes off a 9-4 season last season under Jim Harbaugh. And, you know, this has been a team that's been under question for a few years now with Jim Harbaugh. You know, they brought him in from San Francisco 49ers and really expected him to make a big impact right away. And he did in recruiting. Michigan's ranked nationally 14th in recruiting this year, number 2 in the Big 10. So, you know, each year he has a recruiting class, but he can never get over that hump of beating Ohio State. A lot of people think he's on the hot seat. I would agree. I think this is Jim Harbaugh's year to prove. But at the same time, it's like, well, who do you go get, you know? But we'll discuss that in another video. So some notable freshmen for Michigan. Look no further than defensive end Braden McGregor, number 5 defensive end in the nation, coming in at 6'6", 260 pounds. Sheds blocks well and really has the ability to stick his paws up and block the ball. A lot of defensive end are downhill rushers, or, you know, they're patient and they kind of shed the block and tackle the guy. This guy has the ability to really jump up with a high vertical, get his hand on the ball, deflect it, and even intercept it sometimes. So be looking out for him. And then we go to the other side of the ball. The number 12 running back in the nation, Blake Corum. Little guy, 5'8", 193. But man, is he quick. I even wrote my notes. His acceleration is crazy. When I watch film on this kid, he's so shifty. The way he just works the 52 yards across. He's just, his ability to make people miss is amazing. And jet turbos, man. When he gets in that open field, you can see it. You can see him later because you ain't catching him. So then we go to Penn State, ranked number 15 in the nation in recruiting this year, number 3 in the Big Ten under James Franklin. James Franklin has done a phenomenal job at Penn State, turning that program around from where it was a few years ago under all those scandals and criminal charges pressed against some of the coaches that were there, and to really just turn that tradition around and bring it back to the Penn State that we love so much. Comes off an 11-2 season and a win in the Cotton Bowl against Memphis, which was very impressive considering the talent that Memphis had. Some notable freshmen that they're bringing in: Theo Johnson, number 3 tight end in the nation. He comes in at 6'6", 242 pounds. Really big-bodied kid. Something cool about him is he's from Canada. You don't see a lot of Canadian football players come and play in NCAA, but you're starting to see a lot more now, and actually a few from Germany, I believe, as well. He's a very crisp route runner. And one thing I noted down was I'm curious to see his blocking ability. I saw a lot of catches in his film, but I didn't really see many plays where he's blocking. And I think that's a huge part in being a tight end, is you have to be very versatile. You got to be able to block. You got to be able to catch. So be looking out to see what he can do for Penn State next year. And on the defensive side, the number 7 safety in the nation, Enzo Jennings. This kid comes in pretty big, 6'1", 185. That's the kind of ideal size you look for in a corner these days, or a safety for that matter. Very physical, and the most impressive thing that I saw in his tape is that he just knows how to tackle. I feel like a lot of guys nowadays kind of lead with their shoulder, or they kind of just throw their head in there. Just very lackadaisical. This kid squares up, wraps up with both arms at the knees, and brings them down. I mean, it's textbook tackling. If you're a young guy trying to learn how to tackle properly, check out Enzo Jennings. He'll teach you some things. And then we go down to Maryland, which, as y'all probably know as well, has been under scrutiny over the past couple of years. Sadly, one of their players ended up dying in off-season workouts. I believe it was either last year or the year before. Mike Loxley comes in and takes over. They have pretty good year recruiting, ranked number 31 in the nation, number 6 in the Big Ten. They're coming off of an obviously disappointing 3-9 season last year, but hopefully they can turn it around. This is a team that I would believe was in the top 25 a couple years ago, before the whole criminal charges went down. And hopefully this is something that they can turn around. Some notable freshmen are Ruben Hippolyte II. Don't know if I pronounced his name right or not. Outside linebacker, number 17 in the nation, 6 foot 225. This kid has amazing closing speed. His ability just to get in there and disrupt the play. But on the other side, he's very patient. So I guess you could say he's very versatile. He understands how to let the play develop. He doesn't try to rush into a gap. But yeah, I think he's going to be very, very good this year. And then we stay on the defensive side of the ball. They bring in defensive back Jacorian Bennett, number 12 defensive back in the nation. Little guy, 5'11", 190. But one thing I like about him is he goes up for the ball. A lot of corners are grabbing, the jersey and all that. And he has great vertical. He goes up, he gets the ball, whether he's deflecting it or picking it off. I really find that to be an impressive attribute of his. And finally, we talk about Michigan State. Now, this is one of the most interesting teams, I think, of the offseason, in my opinion, because, as y'all know, Mark D'Antonio leaves, I believe, about a month ago, brings in a whole recruiting class under his defense, his offense, the way he wants to run a program. And then out of nowhere, he just leaves. And it kind of makes you wonder why. He said it was because of family reasons, but, sometimes people get too comfortable in their scenarios. I saw the same thing with Mac Brown when he was at Texas. It almost became a country club, and it just became more of just coming to work kind of thing. Still have great recruiting, but kind of be lackadaisical and kind of get too comfortable in your setting to where you're not pushed or you're not put on the hot seat. And I think that's kind of what happened to Mark D'Antonio. Unfortunately, they come off of a 7-6 season, but they bring in who I think is one of the best upcoming head coaches in the nation, and Mel Tucker. If you remember, Mel Tucker was a defensive coordinator at the University of Georgia during their national championship run in 2017. Takes a head coaching job at Colorado, which we'll get to in the next couple videos in the Pac-12 recruiting. Kind of surprising that he left Colorado too as well, but they offered him a big contract in Michigan State, and you can't really blame him. You almost feel that Michigan State has better opportunities as far as bringing in a better recruiting class and competing for a national title more so than he did at Colorado. So good for him. I'm really proud of his decision. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but you got to do what's best for you and your family and what you think gives you the best opportunity to win championships, and I think Mel Tucker did just that. So, bringing in some notable freshmen for Michigan State under Mark D'Antonio, but also finishing the recruiting with Mel Tucker and signing these guys. The number 28 outside linebacker in the nation, Darius Snow, 6 foot, 215. I call him the play disruptor. Whether he's hitting the running back on read option, who doesn't have the ball, blowing up an offensive lineman, he just plays solid defense. He plays solid pass defense. He plays solid run defense. He just knows how to make plays. And even if he doesn't make the play himself, he knows how to assist. He knows how to disrupt plays and make sure that his guys win that play, that win that down. And I think he's a great team player, and I think he's going to bring that to Michigan State. Hopefully Mel Tucker can keep him there. Like I said, a lot of these players you'll probably see leaving because Mel Tucker didn't recruit them in. But maybe a few will stay because they like him. Who knows? And now, a little bit different, but I got to give love to kickers. Jack Olson, the number 14 kicker in the nation, 5'11", 170. He's got a consistent boot. What can I say? Longest is 60 yards. And in fact, he made the news this past year for the most field goals made in a single game. He made 8 field goals. 8 field goals. That's 24 points. So let that sink in. Wow. I think he's going to be an immediate starter, and I look forward to seeing what he can do. So shout out to all the kickers out there. Sometimes you will get a shout out on my show. Well, that's it for today's video. In the next video, we'll be talking about the Big 10 West. So I'll see y'all then. This is Nate Dogg signing off.
You've been watching Heisman Talk. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date for the latest college football news from around the nation.